Hey, this is Anita, and welcome to my podcast, Mom Talk. And this is specifically targeted for those Christian working moms that are in a corporate space or an entrepreneur. And as we walk through the process of being Christian working moms, there's just a unique set of challenges and opportunities that we face. And so I want to be able to talk about some of those issues and opportunities that come up in our lives. And we're going to do that on this podcast. So today, in episode 1, what we're going to talk about is letting go. And as I was praying this morning, I was realizing something really impactful. So I used to feel like, let me kind of set the stage. I've been reading through Proverbs this year, one proverb a day for every day of the month, and it is currently June 2nd, 2022. And so in that process, as I've been soaking in the Proverbs, and it's talking about wisdom and getting wisdom and understanding and knowledge. That's what Proverbs 2 today is referring to at the very beginning. And what occurred to me is just I walk through some other challenges in my life as I lean into more wisdom and more understanding and more knowledge of what God has for me in my life as a Christian working mom, what I realized that actually there's like a process that I've been walking through for the last several years and really for my whole walk. And that is this, that I used to feel like and be afraid of thinking. I remember thinking back when I was first a believer, I remember thinking that if I say yes to God, that He's actually going to load me up with more stuff to do and more. You hear about people that say, I don't want to say yes to God because I don't want to go to Africa on a mission trip or something like that. But what I realized is I had this perception in my mind that as I said yes to God and got closer to God, that He would like load me up with things to do. And what I'm recognizing now at this season in my life, even with a whole bunch of stuff going on around me, it's actually been the complete opposite. And so that's what I want to talk about today, letting go. And so what does that really mean, letting go? What I'm noticing in my walk and as just a believer and a mom and a wife and an entrepreneur and a business owner and a project manager and all these different hats that I wear, what I'm noticing as God invites me to walk into more of what He has for me, more of my proper identity, more freedom, more tearing off the old and walking in the new, more abundance, more just more of like letting go of the old junk that's not even me anymore. You know how like you put on an old outfit and it doesn't fit? God's like walking me through a season of taking those old things off right now, being able to walk in the new. But in that, there's a very unique opportunity for me to actually listen to the Holy Spirit and see where the Father or the Holy Spirit or Jesus are asking me to actually lay old stuff down. And so as I lay those things down, what I'm noticing is that I actually walk in more freedom. And so let me give you some real practical examples because I'm just a super practical kind of gal. So I've had an Amazon business, and there's things I loved about the Amazon business. There are things that were not really for me with the Amazon business, but I just really enjoyed a lot of those things. And then COVID hit, and my business took just a gnarly hit. It was really impactful, just in the midst of warehouses shutting down and supply chains closing down and all that kind of stuff. And so I remember praying through COVID and kind of making it over the hump of having my products sell through the warehouses and all that kind of stuff. But I came to a critical spot just financially and in my business where I really needed to make some decisions. And so I started praying about it, and I felt like the Lord just so sweetly, like He always does, just kind of whispered to me, hey, it's kind of time to lay the Amazon business down. But I heard that. I kind of acknowledged that. I probably journaled it somewhere in one of my many journals. But what I noticed is that it took me a while to actually go and be obedient to that. And we'll come back to that in a minute. So in that process of praying and looking around and listening and asking for wisdom and people that I knew in the communities that I belonged to, both in my house and in my masterminds and in the Amazon world and that kind of stuff, what I found is that I just kind of kept hearing this check on my spirit, like, Anita, it's time to lay the Amazon business down. And so, but I wanted to hold on to it. I had invested a lot of money. I had these relationships with my clients. There were so many things that I wanted to keep and kind of have this kung fu grip on different elements of that business that I had built up in my mind that thought, no, I have to stick with it. Like, I'm a goal setter. I do not give up easily. I don't lay stuff down or give up when I feel like God has given me a charge of something to do. And maybe that resonates with some of you. But in that, I kept hearing this sweet, soft whisper every time I'd come back to the Lord of like, it's okay. You can lay it down. It'll be okay. And so I walked through that process. I walked through that season. And what I found is that as I tried to hold on tighter, then the business was just, and the economy all around us was just completely falling apart. And so, but as I tried to hold on tighter to it, get a tighter grip and make it work, what I was doing was I actually was like squeezing out the possibility. And so that actually brought me to a really good, almost kind of like come to Jesus moment, or a little bit of a breaking point where I had to honestly look at my business as an entrepreneur and the finances and realize like, this is not really working anymore. It's not bringing the income into our household like I thought. And like I maybe had promised my husband those kinds of things. And so, and God just kept whispering so sweetly to me, honey, it's okay. Just let it go. Lay it down. So in that process, what I found when I finally came to the spot, and this was probably from the time I first heard the Lord speak to me about laying down the Amazon business to the time I finally laid it down. Honestly, ladies, it was probably about a year. It probably took me about a year to walk through that process. So it wasn't immediate. God was so gentle with me in that process. I wasn't being disobedient to what he was asking me to do. I just was getting there. And he was so patient to walk me through that process. But here's what I noticed as I look back and reflect over that season. When I did finally lay down, like sell off my clients and close my accounts and just kind of unravel those pieces of the Amazon business that really I had built up around, maybe even like some stuff around my identity and being an entrepreneur and all that kind of stuff. But as I walked through that process and then finally laid it down, what I found is I actually found great freedom. I found great freedom in laying down the thing that I thought was going to be the thing. And then actually what it did is it opened up the door for me to walk into my next thing. So especially for those of us that have an entrepreneurial mindset, and remember, that's a mindset. An entrepreneur is not necessarily how you get paid. It's really a mindset. And we'll come back to that in another podcast because that's a super important topic. But as I laid down that business, I was actually able to walk into new things. And then I took a step forward and became a facilitator. And I'm a teacher at heart. And so I became a facilitator for some people that I knew and their curriculum and walked clients through, just had an incredible time walking clients through, helping them find work they love that really lines up with their personalities and their dreams and their passions and their desires. And I had so much fun being able to do that. But I also came to another season where God was like, hey, time to lay that down a little bit. Like, that's a great thing. It was a great actual starter for me. It allowed me to go from one step to the next step to the next step, learn a lot of things about building an online business and serving clients well and the way that God had me. It is a Christian-based curriculum. And so I felt like it's so lined up with my belief system and my heart for women and being able to walk them through that process. But then I also came to another spot where God's like, hey, it's time to lay that down and create your own thing. And again, that process took time. It wasn't an overnight. And as I was obedient and taking one step forward each and every day to be able to work toward what God was asking me to operate in and asking me to walk in, because really, ladies, God had something better for me on the other side of laying those things down. So once again, and that was at the end of last year, once again, I laid down this opportunity, this business opportunity where I was really actually enjoying myself, finding great community, just loving serving my clients in that capacity. And for lots of different reasons, God's like, hey, lay that down. So I did. And now the business that I've been walking in and being able to coach other Christian working moms that are like you and I, we've reached that pinnacle spot in our career and we're looking around and doing one of two things. Maybe we're looking around going, is this it? I have the title and the money and the status and all these things, but I'm not satisfied. Or, and for me, there was a process in laying that down too. That's an identity thing. We'll talk about that. But then also realizing like I have a God-sized dream that was bigger than those previous two business ideas. And that's what God was asking me to walk in. And so that process, ladies, when I look back, that process was actually beautiful. As I consider the things that God has walked me through over the last couple of years, where I've grown, where I've matured, where He's stretched my limited thinking, where God has stretched what is possible, where God has taken the tiny little seed of an idea that He gave me, and together with the Holy Spirit, we have grown something way bigger and way more powerful and way more impactful than I could have ever done on my own. And a big part of that was being willing to let go of the old stuff and actually being able to walk in the new. So my question for you in that is, what is God asking you to lay down? And so as you think about those things, this is kind of like your, okay, now take action. Ask the Holy Spirit, what are you asking me to lay down? Are there tasks in my household that I'm not supposed to be doing anymore? And I want to do them because I want them done like my way and I want to control. But God's like, hey, it's okay. You can lay that stuff down. Maybe it's stuff that can be delegated to your children, or you and your husband can work something out a little bit differently. Or maybe you hire people to help you with some of those things. Maybe it's something in your business. Maybe as a powerful Christian working woman where you've reached this pinnacle in your career, maybe you have tasks that you're doing that you are so capable of doing, but you're not supposed to do them anymore because it is actually keeping you from walking into your zone of genius and operating in that highest capacity of the way that God has made you as an amazing woman of God who's in industry doing things that only you can do. Maybe it's something in your health. Maybe it's an eating habit, or maybe it's a drinking habit, or maybe, and drinking could be like from a glass of wine to soda or anything, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's some of those kinds of things. And so the question for you today, ladies, that you can actually take and do something with, because we don't want to just take in more information into our mind. We want to actually do something with what God's teaching us. So what is it that God's asking you to lay down? Because here's the reality. The word says that everything that was pre-Jesus is actually gone. It's died. It's dead. It's no longer me. It doesn't fit me anymore. It's not becoming of the woman that I am as a daughter of the Most High King. It's not me anymore. And so it could be that. It could be a spiritual practice. You could have been walking in religion as a younger person, and now you're walking in freedom and relationship. And God's like, hey, lay down that religion. That wasn't me anyway. Or it could be some of the other things that we mentioned. So what I'd love to be able to do is hear from you. What are the things that God's asking you to lay down? And just share those. You can DM me if you want. You can post them below the videos that I'll post on social, whatever that looks like for you. But what is it that God's asking you to lay down? Remember, He's a good dad. He's always asking us to lay the old junk down so that we as His daughters and His kids can walk in the new. So I know you have a vision of what the new is. He's been speaking that over your life. That's what God does. He loves to be able to prophesy and say, hey, I have more for you to walk in. But in that, sometimes we actually have to put something down in order to be able to pick up a new thing. Because otherwise, just like picture that mom with like 2 kids in her arms and somebody tries to hand her a load of groceries as well. Like, we can't do that. Our arms are full. And so maybe God's saying, like, hey, maybe there's something that you need to lay down a little bit, daughter, so that you can walk as the radiant, beautiful bride that I've made you to be. Maybe there's more power that he has for you to be able to walk in. I don't know, but I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so that's it for today for episode 1. Come on and join the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. You can also join the community. I'll post a link down below to be able to join the community to further the conversation. But just for today, for episode 1, ladies, I want you to know I'm praying for you. I pray that you're blessed and that you prosper in all that you do. I pray that you're walking in your proper identity. And I pray that you would know that you are loved, regardless of anything or anyone that anybody else has said. You are special and you are loved.